Good afternoon. I'm also an odd creature here because I'm a researcher in knowledge. And I'm the head of a department that is made of 45 people. We can have this for later, actually. Let me see how we go back to... Okay, let's keep it there. Maybe it's good that I share our core values with you. But I don't feel very strange talking here because actually I was thinking that we're all born researchers. That's what we do. For the first year, before we even speak, we research everything as human beings. Actually, talking in the ways of duplication, it's an enormous duplication. Each and every one of us, as a baby, has to research the whole world from scratch. Now, the other problem is what we make of all this knowledge, which is not always very good. But I would like to do two things today with the 10 minutes that I'm given. One is to try an optimistic angle on all this. We have heard a list of fundamental problems with science and research. We have heard of all the things that are not going well, and the consumerism and what you mentioned, and I'm very happy to know that 6S is not as good as the 6 is good. I have to tell my daughter who insists to the contrary. But I would like to be an optimist for these 10 minutes. Because this world has a few things that are happening now that never happened before, and one of them is Agenda 2030. So to pick up on the things that have been said, I would like to structure what I'm going to say around 3 keywords. The first is education. We heard about that from Hoyer himself, and I very much enjoyed the remarks he made. Sustainable development, we heard that from him and also my Director General, and Agenda 2030, or the Agenda for Sustainable Development, all the SDGs, but careful, the Agenda 2030 is much more the SDG. The SDG is the framework of the agenda, which is much more, and research for the greater good. Now, I take it from scientific literature that in education, the general view is that scientific education should worry about science and the concepts of science. And the sense of responsibility of the researcher, and I'm talking to the title of this panel, should come from the young researchers observing good examples. And so learning about the responsibility of what they do. Now, we also know from literature that there are 2 approaches. In the US, historically, the approach has been focused on microethics, what the individual does in the laboratory. And so you would have all sorts of inquiries and research on the behavior of the human. Whereas in Europe, they or we have taken a macroethic approach, which looks at the impact of research on the at macro level on society. It resembles a little bit more to what we're discussing today. But as a matter of fact, these 2 schools of thoughts have been fighting for years, but I believe that actually we need both. But you cannot avoid noticing that maybe research has not researched itself very much over the years. Because these studies actually, if you go and try to get them off the internet, for instance, there are not very many studies on this. When we talk about research for the greater good, how research becomes socially relevant, socially fundamental, the first thing that comes to mind is what the scientist, the researcher, is trying to do. And actually, one of the things that he's trying to do is to satisfy his curiosity. Perhaps there are men that have the luck of having remained babies, young somehow. They don't have to go, as you said, to an office for all those hours a week to make money to buy iPhone 6S. So in a way, there is this fundamental curiosity. And this is also a threat to an ethical balance in research. And I'm looking at my colleague and friend with whom I discussed this, which is the incredible pool of self-satisfaction, to be the first to discover that. And that we have embedded in us since we are very young. How do we go past that? Well, in the UN, we praise the connection between the research and the product. Now, we know that in science, and especially in fundamental science, from open on, and it's almost a paradox to say that what is being researched in science is not the responsibility of the scientist, how the use will be. And this we have also in good examples also in biology. But can we lose completely this link, this connection to the product? Is it right? And even if it's right to lose it, is it the right time to act like that? So what I'm getting at is that perhaps the relative positioning of science and research in society has changed. And the good news is that technology is more fundamental to what we do. And the bad news is that scientists are less excusable if they use this formula that has been widely accepted. Is what I research is what I research. What is being used for is not my responsibility. And this because science has more systemic responsibility in the way we want to solve the problems of the world. We observe this in the UN in what we do. When we go and generate or mobilize, I like to say more than generate, knowledge, we find out that the relative position of technology has now gone beyond a critical point in which technology becomes not a way to do what humans have to do in an easier, faster way. It becomes a pillar of how we do things, to the point that humankind is actually today relying on a model that allows us to do only what is technology possible. If it's not technologically possible, we're very likely to drop it. So that tells us something that is fundamental in my opinion. And I would like to reverse the paradigm too, but in a different way. What I would like to offer you as a point of reflection is to go from social responsibility to the responsibility of science to be social. And I think this is a little bit what CERN has also been teaching us. But I think we can go beyond and be even more hardcore in bringing that responsibility into science, and science into the responsibility of saving the planet, because I think that the challenge is nothing less than saving the planet. And we are certainly certified as the disturbancy of the planet, because I think that if we all go to another planet, this planet Earth will do brilliantly well, because it seems to be perfectly balanced in itself, except for us. So this is very strange. So I think that when we celebrate Agenda 2030, we're certainly celebrating the most massive known congregation of heads of states that was able to adopt a document that is going to influence the history of humankind, whether we fail or we succeed, in 15 minutes, for those who were there. It was the fastest growing consensus, because it was well prepared, of course, but because there is the need now. So what is the role of science in there, the role of research? I would shift the paradigm like that. So of course, for all of you who are scientists, especially in fundamental science, this will decrease your degrees of liberty. But as you learn in your experience as a baby researcher, your responsibility grows, and your parents start to tell you, do not say that, do not touch that, do not go there, etc., etc. And this is the same for the level of technology that we have reached. Now is the time to take responsibility, come to the table, educate policymakers to an option that is different from what they had so far, which is messing it and then calling the scientific council to find a solution. They have the duty to listen to science before messing it, but the scientists have also moral duty to do everything that is in their power to make these people aware that there are options that are existent, even if the policymakers are not aware of it. I think that there are many scientists who are ready to take this challenge on. Agenda 2030 is just an opportunity to do that all together with others. And I wanted to show you actually how science is going back to what it was before. In the 18th century, science was a fact of private people. And today we have this again, but in the internet version. What you see behind me is a set of tasks, a small set of tasks that I just photographed with a screenshot from something that has been invented by CERN, UNITAR, my institute, at the University of Geneva, which is called crowdcrafting.org. It's an algorithm that accepts complex tasks distributed to anonymous volunteers who actually solve that. So it's a little bit your grid computing, but made of humans. Big problem, more computers. Big problem, more thinkers. So you're in good company. Everybody's a researcher again. Everybody's connected. Everybody has a part of this horizontalized knowledge that is needed to save the planet, whether through the 17 Sustainable Development Goals or something that will follow, but the challenge is clear, is there. I want to conclude with this Open 17. Open 17 is basically a worldwide shadow cabinet for the international global community in realizing the 17 goals. These people are volunteers. Maybe there are a few here. Maybe I'm one of them. I don't know. And they are going to be measuring at all levels, including household level, the progress on each of the 17 goals. And believe me, they're going to be watching. And these are hundreds of millions of people, and they're all connected. And you will get only more of these people connected. So I think we have to go all in the same direction of realizing this change, and be optimistic, because without this optimism, we will maybe not fail, but we will make the suffering time much, much longer in this world. We humans are a disturbance to the planet. This is scientifically proven. But we have something that the planet in itself doesn't have. And this something is, I believe, the primary force of humankind. And it's the magic 4-letter word. And most people think that is love, but unfortunately not. In my opinion, it's hope. We're able to hope. Sometimes to come to the hope moment, we need to break things pretty bad. But we're able to do that. And every time we build back in a more clever way. Of that, at least, is my hope. Thank you very much.